Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney, and in today's video we're going to be talking about capsule wardrobe sewing specifically for spring and specifically for beginners, whether you're a beginner sewer or just beginner in building capsule wardrobes. I'm very passionate about a very cohesive closet. I'm not a minimalist, but very passionate about a cohesive closet, and I love building little capsules within my entire closet in order to make getting dressed a lot easier. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit today. But before we get into that, today is Friday and I have a couple of quick announcements. Number one, it's Friday, which means we have a Love Notions Feature Friday pattern, and today it's the Rhapsody blouse. I feel like I've done a couple of videos on the Rhapsody on Love Notions channel. It's one of my favorite patterns. Probably, since we are talking about beginner patterns today, I would call it a little bit more of an advanced beginner pattern, only because there is bias tape that you're working with the neckline and that sort of thing, but not hard. But it's a lovely pattern, has so many different variations with sleeve lengths. You can make it a dress, you can make it a top. There's all sorts of things that you can do with it. So absolutely, it's one of my favorite patterns. And if you get it today, you get it on the Feature Friday pattern sale price. And if you use my code TKStitchery10, is that correct? Yes. You get an additional 10% off that sale price. So if you've been waiting on this one, if it's one that you didn't even know about, absolutely go take a look at it. It's linked down below. Again, I've made a lot. Like I've made a lot of that pattern. It's one of my favorites. So anyway, go head on over there and take a look. Also, we are, in fact, this is the last video that you will see before the cart closes on the Kashmir Sloper School. So the Sloper School that Kashmir's doing is basically an 11-week course that is taking you through how to fit a sloper. If you're not sure what a sloper is, it's basically a pattern that it's like a dress, like a fitted dress that you learn to fit on yourself, and then you can take what you've learned from that to fit other Kashmir patterns, as well as, because it fits you so tightly, you can use it to draft other stuff off of as well. So you can draft your own patterns and kind of play around with that without having to start over at the beginning. Anyway, the cart for that closes on Sunday, on the 27th, and the class, you can buy the class itself. It's $175 for that 11-week course, or if you are an all-access member in their, which I am, I pay for that every year to be an all-access club member, which means you get the free pattern every single month. I mean, it's included in the club price. There's lives, there's discount codes, there's all sorts of stuff associated with that all-access. But if you are all-access, you also get Sloper School for free. So the all-access, and I've got a code, Tomcat10 is going to get you $10 off the all-access price, which takes it down to $146. So if you're interested in the Sloper School, I would totally do it that way because $146 is a lot less than $175. And you get so much more stuff for the entire year that you've got that membership. So, and again, it's something that I pay for anyway. Anyway, that is Tomcat10 gets you $10 off the all access, and that does end on Sunday, the 27th. Okay. Let's talk about capsule wardrobe sewing. I'm going to kind of go through how I build my capsule wardrobes and then easy ways for you to do the same thing. And we're going to be going over patterns in order to help you do that as well. So first things first, if you are new to sewing with garments, if you have, delved into sewing a little bit, maybe you haven't sewn any garments yet, or you're just, kind of feeling it out, or it's been a long time since you've sewn garments, whatever the case may be, I wanted to remind you, I do have a class. It is the Introduction to Garment Sewing class. It's available on my website, and I've got it linked down below, but if you go to tomcatstitchery.com, you're going to find all this stuff there. Also, we're going to be talking all the skills you learn in that class. We make a top, a skirt, and a dress, but all the skills that we learn in that class would totally be applicable to the patterns I'm going to talk about here in just a second, as well as if I talk about a couple of knit garments as well. If you are new to sewing knits, if that is scary, if it's something that you've always kind of just put off, Jenny is at this spot right now. She's really mastering how to sew with wovens and is a little scared to start sewing with knits, but we also have a class for that called Knit Sewing Essentials, and that walks you through how to work with knits, things to take into consideration. We go through making different neckline options on t-shirts is what we're sewing with, but I talk about how to take all of that knowledge and further it on to all sorts of different knit garments. So if that's something you've been interested in, and I show it on a sewing machine and a serger. Everything gets shown on both ways. So no matter what kind of machine you are working with, I hold your hand through that process. So just as a reminder. Okay, so when we are planning our capsules, the first thing we want to do is we want to pick our patterns. Now, when I am building a larger capsule, you guys have, if you've been around the channel for a while, you've heard me talk about this. If not, I like to build my wardrobes or my capsules in what are called modules. And I got this idea from Christy Russell. She's a stylist. This is how she styles her clients. But it is basically taking 3 tops and coordinating them with 2 bottoms, and then adding in 1 layering piece, whether that's a cardigan, jacket, whatever the case may be, vest, whatever. And then for a 6-piece wardrobe, I like to throw in a 1 piece, like a dress or a jumpsuit as well. And then that is a module. And all 3 tops go with both bottoms. And the jacket can be worn with all 3 tops and with both bottoms. It's all very interchangeable. And then obviously the dress you can throw in, and it can be worn with the jacket or without the jacket, or layering a top over it, whatever the case may be. And then that gives you 14 outfits basically, with those 7 pieces. But then if you add an additional module on, then it like grows exponentially. So you add 3 more tops in and 2 more bottoms. But if, your 3 extra tops also go with the original 2 bottoms and vice versa. And then you're throwing in an extra topper. Now it can all go. And then another dress. Once you've got those 14 items, I feel like it's a ridiculous number. It's like in the hundreds of outfit combinations you can now make. So it's a really easy way to break down building your own capsule wardrobe and just making sure that you've got options when you open up your closet. It's also a great way if you do want to be a minimalist. I am not a minimalist. In fact, I would call myself probably a maximalist. But if minimalism is something that's important to you and having a few number of clothing items in your wardrobe, this is a great way to go about it. So when we are thinking in those terms, I have put together some patterns that are basically a module. So I've picked 3 tops, 2 bottoms, a jacket, and then a dress that all can easily go together. They can be, I've tried to go with versatility. So when we're picking out our patterns, especially as we're if we are a beginner, we want to pick patterns that are simpler lines just because we're practicing and we are learning. And we are, figuring out fit, number 1. I have picked patterns here from 7 different pattern companies. However, a good rule of thumb, if you find a pattern that you really like, it fit you pretty easily, you fit into the block that they draft for, meaning whatever measurements that they go to create their pattern blocks are closely resemble yours, at least in proportion. A lot of times you can get a better fit on a garment with less alterations, or maybe sometimes even without any, just depending on how close you are to the person or faux person that they have drafted their block off of. So if you find that, you get into some pattern companies and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm very curvy. I have, large bust, small waist, and curvy hips. Cashmerette fits me beautifully. I can easily find my cup size, and then I don't have to do any alterations, and it's wonderful. You can absolutely pull all 7 types of these patterns from their catalog. The same going for, itch to stitch. I am small busted and a little bit more rectangular. Well, itch to stitch has cup sizes from A to double D. So, yeah, all of a sudden you're like, yes, I want to use just itch to stitch patterns right now until I really nail my fit. You absolutely can do that. I've just gone with 7 different companies, and these are all 7 different pattern companies that I think lend themselves really well to beginner sewers. So, and there's way more out there. I have not picked any commercial patterns because, in my opinion, commercial patterns are a little more difficult. And by commercial, I'm talking about McCall's, Vogue, Butterick, those pattern lines, Simplicity. I find that they're a little less hand-holding when it comes to their instructions, which can be a little more difficult for beginners. And sometimes their sizing can be a little bit confusing and all over the place. So you spend a lot of time, sometimes making a garment for it to not fit very well. Not all the time. Some people do fit the block that goes with the commercial patterns well, and it's not an issue. They put a lot of ease into their patterns, meaning they make them a little bit bigger so that you can adjust as you go. That being said, I have gone with independent pattern companies here just because I find the hand holding is a little bit better, and some of these even have sew-alongs that go along with them, which would make it even easier for you. So we're going to go through these patterns, and I'm going to talk a little bit about fabric as we go, but we are going to talk a little bit more about fabric here at the end. So Pattern number 1 that I'm going to start. So we're going to go with 3 tops. The first one that I've picked is the Itch to Stitch V-Coast top. Now this can be a top or a dress, which is nice when we get patterns that can be multiple things, because if you decide, yes, I really like this module way of sewing, but now I want to make a second module in different fabric that kind of goes, you could still use these same patterns, just kind of tweak them a little bit. Maybe a dress becomes a top or vice versa, and you've got even more options here. So gone with the V-Coast. Now, if you are a beginner, I would suggest picking a fabric with a little bit more stability. So your cotton lawn, cotton poplin, cotton broadcloth, linen, even like a linen cotton blend or a linen rayon / viscose blend would all be perfect for this. This top does come with 3 different sleeve options. So there, if you're making for spring, you may want to choose the short sleeve option. That would be the easiest sleeve to make. So if you are new, I would absolutely recommend doing the sleeveless. And again, we're going into the warm months, so, you know, it makes it easy. This pattern does come in cup sizes, so that is nice if you are a little bit bustier or not as busty and want to choose based on that. She's got really great instructions too for how to determine your size. So this was the first one. I thought just a really good woven t-shirt pattern that could easily go many different ways. The second pattern that I've picked for the second top is the Love Notions Barrington Boxy t-shirt. I went with this because, I mean, t-shirts, I mean, they just go the distance in anybody's wardrobe, but I went with this one, number 1. It's only $5 on the Love Notions website, actually, and I have a code, the same code for the Feature Friday, but my code TKStitchery10 gets you 10% off everything, so it would even get you 10% off the $5 pattern. But when you buy the pattern just as is, it's only $5. It's just a really current, modern t-shirt pattern. You can make it with little slits on the side or just a straight hem. I've made it with just the straight hem. It's great. 3 different necklines, 3 different sleeve lengths. It's just a really easy t-shirt to make. And again, it's a very modern take on the t-shirt right now, which is why I went with this pattern. I would suggest, while you can totally use your viscose and rayon spandex and ITYs and double brush poly and all that, I would suggest sticking with a cotton spandex jersey for if you're learning. It's just a little bit easier to use. Jersey does have a tendency to curl, which can be annoying, but a little spray starch sometimes will keep that from happening as you are, like spray starch that you use when you're ironing will help keep that from happening sometimes, and then it just washes out. But this is a cotton spandex t-shirt. They just it's just a little bit easier to work with, not as slippery. So if you're new to sewing with knits or new to sewing period, it's a really great fabric to use. Okay, number 3. So I've got my list down here that I keep looking at. Number 3, if you're wanting, you know, now that you've tackled a woven t-shirt as well as a knit t-shirt, if you're wanting something just a little bit more, I have gone with the Chalk and Notch Wren top. Now, the reason I went with this is because it does have a button placket up the front. Now, it doesn't have a collar. It's just a faced collar. So you've already done the facing on the V-Coast. This is the same thing. It's finished off a little different because you've got a button placket here. Still really, really easy. Chalk and Notch, their instructions are really easy to follow. There's a couple of different sleeve options you can do with this top, and you can also make it into a dress. I have made the dress and I have made the top as well. I love the top. The dress is really cute. It's like a drop waist dress, is also really cute. But the top it's a really nice gateway if you're wanting to get more into like blouses and that sort of thing. I would also go with more structured fabric though, just for now. But if you want to, you know, maybe go into something a little bit more difficult, a cotton gauze could be really fun in this type of shirt. Cotton lawn though would probably be my go-to with something like this. If you wanted to, you know, get into a little bit more slinky, slippery fabric, you can add, I've made this pattern in viscose or rayon challis. Viscose and rayon are the same thing. They just, 2 different words for the same thing. But a challis, and that is C-H-A-L-L-I-S. Wonderful for this type of pattern. It gives it a little bit of drape and really lovely to use. So just something to keep in mind, or you can stick with your more structured fabrics as well. All right, let's move on to bottoms. Now, I have gone with a pant bottom as well as a skirt bottom. Obviously, if you aren't comfortable wearing skirts or dresses, you don't have to. But I picked a couple that have some options. So, or maybe you only want to wear skirts and dresses, then you don't have to do the pants. But for the pants, I've gone with the Closet Core Patterns sepia pants and shorts because I just feel like there's a lot of big bang for your buck. Number one, it's an easy pattern. It is a completely elastic waisted pattern, so comfortable. The pockets that are on the front are patch pockets, which are easier, like a cargo pocket, much easier to sew. It comes with 2 different leg lengths. So you have like your wide leg, which I feel is very in right now, like an elastic waisted pair of wide leg trousers are everywhere. Wonderful for spring, or it's got a tapered leg version as well if you want something a little bit sleeker, just a little bit different look. And it comes with shorts as well. So for fabric on this, again, I would stick a little bit more bottom weight. So you could go with linen, which would be absolutely beautiful. Your linen, viscose, or rayon blends. Chambray would actually be really beautiful, cotton chambray in this, or even like denim weight shirting. And denim weight shirting. Shirting weight denim. And if you are shopping for denim online and you're not sure what that means, a 4 to 6 ounce denim is a shirt weight denim. So that is something that's a little bit lighter. So it's not like jeans denim. It's a much lighter denim, but I think that that would be beautiful in this pattern as well. Cotton twills would be really, really lovely. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to get crazy, you could even go with a rayon twill or a viscose twill. Those can sometimes be a little bit slipperier and harder to work with. So stick maybe with the cottons or the linens if you're wanting something a little bit more structured or something a little bit easier to work with while you get your footing underneath you. But I thought it had a lot of options and would be really great pattern to own. I'm actually really tempted by this. Really great pattern to own. Just so you've got many options. I mean, you could make if you wanted to do 2 modules, you could make all 4 pairs of pants out of this and no one would know it was the same pattern. Just if you choose different fabrics, do the different views, got a lot of options there. And then for the second bottom, I've gone with the True Bias Maeve skirt. I just feel like I'm seeing these everywhere. So this has different lengths. You can do like a short one and then you just keep adding tiers to make it a little bit longer, But I've been seeing maxi skirts, elastic waist, like tiered maxi skirts everywhere. Again, you can use the same lighter weight. I would use lighter weight fabric than maybe you would for the pants, but you could use a chambray if you wanted to. Cotton eyelet would be really beautiful. You'd want to make sure and line that with something, which would be fine. Like a cotton voile or something underneath it, just so, because eyelet you can see through. But yeah, you could do your cotton lawns. You could do viscose challis or rayon challis if you wanted to get real crazy. Cotton shirtings, cotton poplin, all perfect for this type of pattern. And if you're not into skirts, that's fine. You could do all the pants, or if you prefer skirts over pants, you've got some options here as well. So easily, and as I am thinking through pairing the 3 tops that I picked with these 2 bottoms, silhouette-wise, they all can go together. Like you can easily have multiple outfits with these 5 patterns. Okay, next up is the topper or layering piece. So this could be a cardigan, a vest, a jacket, something that can change up the outfit and make it a little bit different. And I've gone with the jacket on this because we are in spring, and where I live in spring, it's still chilly, especially in the evenings and mornings. And for this one, I would call this an advanced beginner. I've gone with the seam work ret. I'd call this the advanced beginner because it is it's almost button-down shirt-ish, but so you're getting into a little bit more than adventurous beginner. But what's really lovely about this pattern is that it comes with a free sew along. So you can follow right along, someone holding your hand as you're making this, especially if you are a beginner. I would use something with a little bit more structure, whether that's a heavyweight linen or cotton twill would probably be my go-tos for this type of pattern. You could do denim, but I don't know, I might steer, especially if you're new to sewing, steer a little bit more towards the cotton twill, just a little bit easier to handle. Sometimes denim can get quite thick and be a little bit harder to get through the machine. Although, if you did a shirting weight denim, like a 4 to 6 ounce, which you could totally do on this jacket, make like a lightweight denim jacket, which could be kind of fun, you would be fine. I would just stick more towards, I don't know that I would go much, if you're a beginner, over like an 8 ounce denim maybe for this jacket. I like to wear a 10 to 12 ounce for jeans, and you could use that fabric for this jacket. It's just going to be a lot bulkier seams. You're going to need to know what you're doing with denim just a little bit more in order to do that successfully. totally doable, not hard, just some considerations you need to make when you're using fabric that thick. But yeah, cotton twill would be really lovely for this. Okay, and then finally, for the dress pattern, I have gone with the Pattern Emporium Spellbound Dress. Now, this is a sleeveless dress pattern that has a couple of like a little cap sleeve or a little ruffle sleeve that you can kind of fit into the top there of the sleeve. I'm actually wearing it right now. I'm wearing a t-shirt over it because so it looks like a skirt. But anyway, it's a lovely dress pattern. And the reason I like it so much is that it has no waist seam. So it gives the illusion of a waist of curves without, even if you don't necessarily have curves. I don't. I have a large bust, but then I'm very straight through my waist and hips. And this actually gives me a waist just by the way that dress really curves in. It's also really great for large scale prints because you don't have a lot of seams that are breaking up that print. I would stick to, I've made this one that I'm wearing in a cotton spandex jersey. Perfect for this pattern. You could do it in a ponte if you wanted to, a lighter weight ponte. All of those great for beginners, especially, well, ponte's not going to curl on you either, so that could be a wonderful one. Definitely stick to pontes that are more rayon, nylon, spandex, and less polyester. It's fine if there's a little polyester instead of the nylon. Just make sure that's a smaller percentage. You want the higher rayon percentages on those pontes. They just wear better, a lot more comfortable to wear. Anyway, lovely pattern. If you are someone, though, that prefers to have a sleeve on your arm, the Wanderlust, which is also a pattern by Pattern Emporium, is the same dress pattern. It's just that the bodice has been cut for a sleeve as opposed to being sleeveless. So it's another option. I've made quite a few of those as well. It's just a really flattering style on like all of the body types. It also doesn't really matter where your waist is. It's gonna elongate. I have a short torso. So anything that doesn't have a horizontal line that shows exactly where my waist is, which emphasizes the fact I have a short torso, I feel like makes me look just a little bit longer and a little bit more proportionate. So wonderful sewing pattern, has fantastic instructions, all the stuff. Nice large size range. The Spellbound is an older one and doesn't have the amount of size range that the Wanderlust does, though, just so you know. It's one of her older patterns and she has not done the full extended size range on the Spellbound. She has on the Wanderlust. So just keep that in mind as well. Okay, so those are the 7 patterns that I would pick if I were a newbie creating my first capsule wardrobe. We talked about fabric, and again, I would want to use stuff that's just a little bit more stable, has a little bit more body. It's just easier to work with, and if you are new to sewing, we want to take out as much frustration as possible so that you can learn your new skills, and then you can add on some of those harder things. But okay, now that we've picked our patterns, let's talk about what are we going to make these in. Great, we've got patterns, now what? How do I make sure that everything goes together? Number 2, we're going to be talking a little bit about color palette. Now, I am a big proponent of having your colors done, but you don't have to have your colors professionally done. I find it very helpful because a professional has looked at me and given me a list of, a color card of these are the 35 colors that you look best in. And then I just pick from there. And then everything in my closet goes together. The pink that I have picked because it's in this same color family goes with this blue and it's not too harsh or too contrasting. They all go together, which I think makes a very cozy closet. But you don't have to get your colors professionally done. You can look through magazines, home deck magazines where they'll give like a color palette. Designers have done that. All those colors look beautiful together. You can absolutely go that route, or you could just pick colors that you like that go together. That's absolutely fine as well. If you are interested in having your colors done, I do have a code for Color Guru, which is an online virtual color analysis. And my code Tomcat Color gets you 10% off any of their packages if you are interested in doing something like that. But again, totally, completely up to you. My rule of thumb when I am building a capsule for the season is I like to do 6 colors. This is my current spring color palette that I've gone with just to give you an idea. I like to go with 2 neutrals. So I go with a light neutral and a dark neutral. So this spring I've gone with the cream and the olive green. And then I like to pick 2 what I call like semi-neutral colors. So this will be like, denim would fall in this category. A color like navy blue could also fall in this category. If you've got a different color that you want to use for your dark, it could also be a dark neutral. So, there's no like real rules here. This is just kind of a rule of thumb. For my two, I've gone with this kind of ocean blue color as well as this warm mustardy gold color. I just find that I can wear them as neutrals pretty easily. They color block really well, and I can find, other pieces, fabrics and stuff that go in this without it being too stand outish. And then finally, I like to pick two pops of color. So for the spring, I've gone with the salmon pink and the warm red, which is right here, which are just two fun little pops of color. I'll get an accessory in that, or maybe just one top that's in there, or maybe that's a color that appears in a print that I've pulled up, whatever the case may be. So this is a great way to pick your color palette, and you don't have to have 6 colors. If you can only think of 5 you want, that's fine too. Again, if you're going with minimalist and you only want 3 colors, that's fine. You can do what you want. I like to do 6 for my seasonal capsule wardrobes, and that's how I go about picking those colors. So once I've got my colors kind of decided upon, and this can be dictated a little bit by fabric as well. If I'm going through my fabric stash and looking, maybe I'm like, oh, I really would like to use this fabric. That could also dictate, okay, I'm going to have green in my capsule, or whatever the case may be. But if you're buying all new fabric for this capsule wardrobe, I would go ahead, make out your color palette, and then shop based on that. Like, I'm looking for these 6 colors. So the third component in this is picking out our fabrics. Like I said, things that have a little bit more structure just make things a little bit easier. But you want to sit down now and decide how you feel about prints versus solids. Some people are only comfortable in solids. You don't mind doing some color blocking. Maybe as adventurous as you want to get in your prints is like a stripe, or maybe a plaid, or a small floral, but you only want one, or not a lot. That's absolutely fine. Deciding where you're comfortable is where you should be. I like all the color and all the bright prints. This dress fabric being a prime example. So absolutely up to you where you fall on that. When I am doing capsule wardrobes, I usually like to pick, because I was helping a friend recently pick out her fabrics for a capsule wardrobe. I went with a really beautiful print for the dress, because then easy to dress with, if I want to layer a top over it, or the jacket that we're making, or whatever the case may be. In solids, it makes it really easy. Also, if you go with a beautiful print that has, quite a few of your colors in it, that's also a way that you can pick out your color palette for that spring or that season's wardrobe. If I've got this dress fabric here that I'm wearing right now, I may decide, okay, so my colors, there's not a lot of neutral in here, so maybe I pick my 2 neutrals, and then I say, I'm gonna go with the ocean blue and the bright red and, the purple for, some colors, or whatever the case may be for you. But I find that doing a dress and a print, and at least one top in a print, can be wonderful. And then if you want to do the rest in a solid, that's fine. If you want to make your first module a little bit heavier on the solids, and then maybe get a little more adventurous with prints in your second module, that's an option as well. I often keep my bottoms solid and my jacket solid, definitely. But you don't have to. If you want a really wonderful pair of fun printed pants, you can absolutely do that. Just making sure that all 3 of your tops go with that one pair of pants. You can print match. That's not you can do that. So just keeping that in mind. And when it comes with my tops, I usually like to do 2 solids, at least 1 solid, sometimes 2 solids with 1 print. Sometimes I'll do a little bit bolder print with one of my tops, but I also may do a solid, something like a small stripe, or maybe a small dot or something like that, and then a busier print. Completely up to you. You can be a little bit more adventurous, I feel like, in the tops if you are keeping your bottom solid. So just keeping that in mind, and when you're putting your fabric samples together, making sure that all things go together, because the math only works if you're going to be willing to wear all 3 of your tops with both bottoms and the jacket with all the above. If you wanted to have a really crazy jacket and make all of your other pieces solid, or like, a smaller print like a stripe or a little dot or something, you can absolutely do that. That is what is wonderful about sewing being our superpower, and the creativity that is involved. So that is how I would go about creating my spring capsule wardrobe if I were a beginner, whether you're a beginner to sewing or a beginner to creating capsules. hopefully you found this video helpful, and leave any questions you have down below. I love garment sewing, but I love sewing in capsules. I love dressing in capsules. It's something I'm rather passionate about. So keep the conversation going in the comments, and yeah, I'd love to chat. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I will see you guys again next time, and get some sewing in this weekend. Have a good one. Bye.